The second reason for looking out for a job was I knew that by age 50, I wanted to become a coach and leadership development expert to help other people. Because I have gone through my own journey, I can help people. I really knew this. What I also realized is, let's say, fast forward my life and I'm at 50 and I look back at my career while helping other people. It won't look good if I say, hey, I've been in one company for 30 years, now I have retired. After that, once you become a people manager, you've got large organizations, you've got strategy to take care, people management, performance management, business results. So those become your priority. You don't look at individual bricks in the wall, you look at the wall in the whole.
Hello. Welcome to Namecast. Pramoda, it's been a long time. We waited for having this conversation with you, so I want to warmly welcome you to our podcast, new series. Please introduce yourself to our audience, and I will ask my questions.
Thank you, Masood. I'm really excited to be here on the show. I'll give you a quick background. I have been working in the software industry for about 21 years. I jokingly call it as half marathon in software engineering. I started my career way back in 2002, January. I lived in India. I joined Oracle right after my master's degree, computer science. I have been with Oracle for about 19 years. The first 6 years, I was an individual contributor in India. And then I became a manager. I gradually grew as a manager. From there, I became a director of engineering of a group, managing about 75 people in the organization. In the year 2015, I had an opportunity to relocate to the US through international transfer. So I moved from Oracle India to Oracle America in 2015. From there, from 2015 to 21, I was with Oracle managing a global team, an offshore team in India, and some people in the US. By 2021, I was looking for more exciting challenges in my career. After 20 years of my stint at Oracle, I interviewed at so many places, including LinkedIn, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Meta. I landed an offer at Meta. I joined Meta, and that's where I worked for a while. After that, last year, I started my own company called Change Smith Coaching. I really believe that we all can consciously change and become better leaders. So that's why I coined the name as Change Smith, which is somebody who is skilled in behavioral changes. Currently, I am primarily into leadership coaching and communication coaching. My clients are primarily technology audience, technology professionals, and I work with them either one-to-one capacity or group coaching on various aspects on communication and leadership.
Awesome. Like the three chapters of your life and highlight and summary is basically Oracle experience, which is like the first part is it was in India, and then you relocated to US, worked for a few years at Oracle, and then you decided to change your company. I think after you mentioned 13 years?
About 20 years.
20 years in Oracle.
Yeah.
So
around 20 years at Oracle, yes.
So like the 13 years was, I saw it on your LinkedIn. It is basically you're as engineering director, right?
Yes, yeah. So awesome. 13 years in India, 7 years in the US. So that's why it is 20 years. 13 in India, 7 in the US.
Perfect. And then your meta experience, I have a lot of questions. Some of them I will ask in this episode, some of them I will ask in following episodes. And very recently, which is like in the past more than 1 year, right? You have founded the Change Smith, which is mostly in like short, it is coaching in career development and leadership.
That's correct.
Awesome.
It's about 16 months now.
16 months. Awesome. Great. So as I also mentioned before we start this episode, I'm going to, in the first part, ask you some questions about your background, share with our audience. So tell us more about like your highlight points from Oracle, and then basically we will move to the more recent chapters of your life.
One thing I would love to highlight most of this is how terrible I was in communication in general and public speaking in particular. That is important because that gave me impetus to change, grow, and improve as a leader. Back in 2003, I was working with product managers in Germany, Singapore, and the US. I was struggling to communicate because English was my third language. I was searching for words, what to communicate, how to communicate. And it was even terrible when it was public speaking. Speaking in front of a few people, I really fumbled and mumbled. I did not like it. Someone recommended to me that I should join Toastmasters. I will tell you, that has been a transformative experience in my life because I listened to somebody who was senior to me. I went to one meeting to figure out what's this all about? What is Toastmasters? This was back in 2003, October, about 21 years ago. Had I not gone to this club, my career would have taken a totally different trajectory. Because I went there, I worked hard on myself for the next 3 years from 2003 to 2006. I went there every week to improve myself as a communicator, speaker, and leader because I took various roles in the organization. In 3 years, my mindset totally changed. And that was the reason I also grew very fast in my career. So first 6 years in my career, I was an IC. I had an opportunity to become a manager because I had all the skills of working with people, leading organizations, leading teams through my Toastmasters experience. That is the highlight I want to bring here, saying that technically, I think most people have competence. They have got degree or master's degree. What changed in my career was the soft skills. I got real good advantage right in the beginning of my career. Like within 5 years, I got all the skills required to present to people, share ideas, handle conflicts, manage teams and organizations. That wouldn't have come without this experience at Toastmasters.
That's great. So a few points. First of all, for our audience, I learned IC like the in recent, basically like my meta experience refers to individual contributor, and nowadays more and more companies are using like the this terminology. So and the second thing that you mentioned is the Toastmaster experience. I had a similar experience like the in my beginning of my career after the grad studies in Edmonton. I went for a couple of months to Toastmaster, huge impact. And but one of the major takeaways for me in your story from Oracle is basically like similar to our main core stories is basically like ups and downs. So I usually paint it like this. So when you realize you're not good at, for example, in your case, public speaking, I was the same in presentation, for industrial, basically setup, and you suddenly become like the master in the leadership. So that's a great story and resonates with a lot of people. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, let's move to briefly to your meta journey. So what was this moment at Meta, if you had anything like this at Meta?
Yeah, if it helps, I would like to talk first about why did I join Meta.
Yeah,
The
absolutely. Yeah.
reason is I was with Oracle for close to 20 years. I always think about future planning and I live my life intentionally. So when I turned 40 in the year 2019, I was thinking, I've been with Oracle back then about 17 years, 2002 to 2019. I was a really good performer from an individual contributor to a manager to a director of engineering, and then transferred to the US through business reasons. I was a hero in the whole career journey. I thought if I look back at my career, it's only one company, one organization, one culture. I did not like it. I wanted more challenges. The second reason for looking out for a job was I knew that by age 50, I wanted to become a coach and leadership development expert to help other people. Because I have gone through my own journey, I can help people. I really knew this. What I also realized is, let's say, fast forward my life and I'm at 50 and I look back at my career while helping other people. It won't look good if I say, hey, I've been in one company for 30 years, now I have retired. I did not like the story. Those two were the reasons that made me look for jobs in the big tech world. And I had decided to join any of the big tech companies, by the way, not specifically Meta. In fact, I cleared the interviews at Google as well. I was waiting for the team matching exercise to happen. By the time Meta gave me the offer, that's why I jumped to Meta. Otherwise, I would have joined Google if they had given the offer earlier. So
Awesome.
the impetus was more challenges, better career line, to look back and tell stories to my clients in the future. That was the root cause for finding a new job after 20 years in one company.
So it's great, like the yeah, as you summarized. So the first takeaway from the story why you joined Meta is more challenges, and the second one was like you realize you love helping people to upskill or grow in their career. These two resonates deeply with my basically like uh, also like thinking and like reflection in my own projects and the things that I'm doing. So I would love to also learn a lot from your stories and like the experiences that you had in this journey. And then the big tech, yeah, what was your experience like the in during the interviews, during basically like moving from one company to the goal that you set at that time?
There were a couple of biggest challenges for interview. One is I had never interviewed for 20 years. If you remember, I was in India for 13 years and then 7 years in the US, same company. When I transferred, there was no interview because it was an international transfer to a different role in the same company. So there is no interview there. So I did not know what interview was in big tech world. That was the biggest thing. Like what the interview process was, I did not know. And I had not coded for about 10 years. So the last piece of code I wrote was in 2010. A little bit of Python and SQL back in 2010. After that, once you become a people manager, you've got large organizations, you've got strategy to take care, people management, performance management, business results. So those become your priority. You don't look at individual bricks in the wall, you look at the wall in the whole. That's what you do as a leader. So the biggest challenge was to come back and say, look at this coding interview. How do I prepare and perform? The second one was the systems design interviews. There were two in each of these companies, which is large scale systems design. The challenge was in my roles at Oracle, I had developed applications used by 2,000 or 6,000 people. At Meta and other companies, we talk about billions of users. So there's a huge difference between building applications internally used by employees of a company, a few thousand, versus people around the world in a few billions. The scale was a big factor as well because you come with a mental model. Depending on the scale you work on in building systems and managing projects, we all build mental models. So my mental model was based on monolithic systems for a few thousand users, not distributed systems for a few billion users. That mindset was a challenge too, the interview process as well as the mindset.
Awesome, this is great. So I will ask a lot of these questions in the following episodes. I want to have some time to introduce your recent book, which I'm excited to. This is one of the first interviews that you're doing after the publishing of this book, which will be a great resource for our audience as well. So before going to the second chapter of this episode, which is I want to allocate it for talking about the book and the book chapters and what motivated you to write this book. Before going there, I want to ask my quick questions for the first chapter. So you talked about in like you're transitioning to Meta or big tech. You talked about like going from a company that you have worked for 20 years. Imagine that other people might work like for 4 years, 5 years, 2 years, and they want to do a big change in their career. Maybe it's basically like the changing in the field. It could be moving from IC role to manager role. It could be going from a startup to big tech. For these ones, like what are the top 3 things that if we have the following episodes in the next few weeks, what are the top 3 topics that you want to like go deeper and discuss?
Number one thing I recommend is the reason why. You need to know the why behind your action. Like, what's the purpose of finding a new job? If that is not clear, what happens is you may end up joining some roles that you're not really interested in or not really enjoy in the future. In my case, my number one motivation was I wanted some more challenges. I wanted to join the big tech. So I was ready to join any of the FANG companies. It was called FANG back then. It is called MANG or something else right now. Back then it was called FANG, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. I wanted to join any of these before I retire and become a full-time coach. My goal was very clear. I would have joined any of these five companies. I was not bothered about the culture or technology or anything else. Let me be very clear. I was not attached to any of these companies. But I had my clear reason to interview after 20 years, working hard and preparing, and join. So similarly, if you are interviewing, you're changing either a role or type of job you're doing or individual contributor to manager, know your why. If you have a strong why, how is not a problem at all. That is my number one tip for people to find out your why. Why are you moving out? What's the purpose?
Awesome. We will talk more about like what is your methodology, because some of the things that I basically during the few pages that I read from the book is basically not only talking about the why, but also like the actionable things that you can implement after you're clear about your goal. In your
Yeah.
case, you were clear about like going to big tech or FANG at the time, MANG at now. I don't know if it is basically now the same thing. The world has changed a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
this
we
is
can
great.
certainly talk about the specifics of how to prepare for the interview. Right? So we can certainly talk definitely how to prepare for the interview, whom to talk to before you even start interviewing, how to approach recruiters, how to talk to hiring managers. We can talk about all the specific details in whenever you want to record later in future episodes. I will share with you what I did, what worked for me. And in the last 15 months, I have coached at least 20 people to find new jobs. Either they were part of layoff or they were trying to find a new opportunity. Close to 20 people I have helped land a job in the last 15 months. So I will share not only my experience, but from my clients' experience in future sessions.
Absolutely. One of the things that I also had the opportunity to work with you, like three great sessions. You kindly offered those sessions to me, like after I got impacted by Meta layoff last April, I think. One of the things that I still remember and I still use is basically like the approach that you laid out for having, like, I wanted to go from IC to manager role. And one of the things that was challenging at the time for me as IC is like not seeing the break in the wall, but seeing the whole basically building, and also being able to strategize.
Mhm.
You're joining a new team without any context, building a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day plan. If you remember, we had this basically conversation last year. One of like I enjoyed like your sharing your wisdom. So we'll talk more about like this aspect, like the interview aspect, and also like the third topic that I would love to ask your opinion about is moving towards being a great leader. This is
Mhm.
basically like we can learn a lot from your experience and wisdom and your resources. So we'll talk more about because I know like you have multiple medias for these coaching sessions. We'll talk more in the following episodes. Let's move to the second chapter of this episode, talking about your newly published book, Beyond Your Limits.
There you
This is
go.
great. Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Give me for the first question. I think this is the most like you mentioned why. Yeah, what was your strong why writing this book?
I will go back to the original story. If you remember, I told you I joined Oracle in 2002. This was early 2002. But a year before that, in 2001, my father passed away when I was 22. From that year, 2001, up until 2003, I did not enjoy my life. because I was sort of in a mild depression mode where what's the meaning to life? All these existential questions came to my mind. What's the purpose of life? Why do we come here? What's the benefit of living? Anyway, one day we will die. What's the point of all these things? So I had all these thoughts in my mind. I was reading a lot of self-help books, but I was not changing anything in my life. So for about 18 months, from 2001 January to 2003 August, September, my life was in a different mode. I used to enjoy reading self-help books, but I used to feel bad about my own life. What's the point to living? I went to a seminar in 2003. It was on time management. In that seminar, I was introduced to a person called John Goddard. John Goddard was an American adventurer. At age 14, he listed about 127 goals for himself. Those are all adventurous goals, such as climbing Mount Everest, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, crossing the Nile River, kayaking, and so on. By the age 70, he had achieved most of those goals. So the trainer in that workshop talked about John Goddard and how he lived an intentional life. I was there in the workshop, totally moved by the experience and the example that John had set for everybody else. I went home that night. I said, okay, I don't have any dreams about climbing Mount Everest or some other mountains. What would be my goals? So when I thought about it that day, it was back in 2003 October, I wrote 5 goals to start with.
Okay, nice.
And that's the first 5 chapters of my book. If you look at the book chapters, the first 5 chapters are those. And I'm going to read those. So the first was I wanted to lose 33 pounds or 16 kilograms. That was my goal number 1. Second goal, I was scared of water. I wanted to face the fear of water. That was my goal number 2. Goal number 3, becoming a confident public speaker. I told you in the beginning, I was scared of speaking in public. I wanted to overcome that fear. Number 4 was learning a martial art. In my childhood, I had a dream of becoming a martial artist. I was inspired by Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. For various logistical reasons, I never went to these classes in my childhood. So goal number 4 was learning a martial art. Goal number 5 was donating blood 50 times before turning age 50. That was goal number 5. Now, as I listed these goals that day, I only listed 5 goals, and I worked on these 5 for the next 3 years, from 2003 to 2006. Right after that, my life became a goal-oriented life. So in the book, I talk a lot about my personal goals, about 52 goals in my life. So the first goal in the book is losing 33 pounds. And the last goal, which is number 52, is writing a non-fiction book. That, I hope, answers your question of why the book is, it was one of my goals to publish a non-fiction book. So I am here. I took all my experiences of changing, transforming, becoming a changesmith in my life through changing consistently my thoughts and behaviors. Now, in the last 18 months, I help other people do the same, become changesmith by changing their thoughts and behaviors. And book is just one way of changing people's thinking and behaviors.
This was amazing, basically, like starting and ending with the 5 goals that you started, and then you climbed the mountain over 22 years, right? From
Yes.
from that point, October 2003, 21 years,
That's right.
right?
Right. 21 years.
21 years. This is a huge mountain to climb.
Yeah.
Fear of public speaking. Some of the things that is still basically like the challenges of like the younger generation, including myself, including
Yes.
yourself, still is basically some of these challenges that we face in 2024, and then we set the goal. So tell me more about like the what are the, like during this 52 goals that you have set over time, like what was your cadence? Like the first time that you set in October 2003, it was 5 goals for the next 3 years, right? What was your cadence up until now?
Some of these goals were together. Like when I was running a marathon, I was doing other things as well. So some more goals are parallel. It doesn't have to be sequential one after the other. Some goals are sequential. They have to add up. They have to be sequenced well. Um, I would say I usually take about 3 to 5 goals at any time, not more than 3 to 5 goals, because it becomes too many to focus. You have a scattered mind, it doesn't work. I take 3 goals at a time and say, okay, what do I do for the next these 3 goals this year and next year? So each year I have goals. So that's how I work on. Typically, I say not more than 3 goals every year.
And that's also like something that has recently caught my attention is like in this rapidly changing like work and also the life like
Mhm.
AI and like the hugely impacting like how we work and how we live. It's basically like setting a minimum or minimal goals that
Mhm.
matters most for you plays a huge role than like having a list of like 10 goals that you're more overwhelmed. So yeah, I like this basically wisdom of limiting it to the ones that are most important. So what is your current goals like for the goals that you basically set for yourself 2024, 2025, and 2026 if you have something listed?
The- There are 3 goals I'm working on right now. Number one is to make the book successful because book writing is one, making the book successful is another. There are two different aspects. I wrote the book, the goal is finished. Now, the book has a really strong message. The section one is about 52 goals that I have achieved, really difficult goals. Somebody who came from my background, that's really difficult. In fact, some goals are difficult to anybody. You will read the book, you will realize. Second section talks about a 7 step goal achievement framework. The third section talks about top 3 mistakes people do in goal achievement. I have sent this to several authors to read. Marshall Goldsmith has endorsed this. The foreword is written by Dr. Eric Meisel in the US. He wrote about 60 plus books in America. He's a creativity coach. So the book has a really strong message. It has gone through professional editing twice. So it's a matter of doing the right things to make the book successful so that more people read the book. So my number one focus right now is how do I ensure more and more people read this book? That's my number one goal this year for the next 6 months. Number two goal is also look at how do I leverage this? I am now creating a live cohort course based on the book because the book talks about a 7 step framework. I know that from my experience, many people will say, okay, what next? I like the book. I would like to work with you. What next? Realistically, it is not possible because one on one coaching cannot be scaled. So I'm creating a brand new cohort program called Beyond Your Limits, exactly the same name as my book, which is an 8 week program starting in September. So each week, 90 minutes, we will cover one aspect of the 7 step framework for 7 weeks. And the eighth week is about wrap up and summary and celebration. That's the second goal I'm working on. How do I set up a course, which is an 8 week course? I will run that course 3 times every year, every quarter, every 4 months once, and that will be a global course available to anybody around the world, online course. So that's my second goal I'm working on. The third goal is as I am making progress, I'm going to these podcasts. I went to one podcast yesterday, one other podcast coming next week. I am realizing there is a lot of opportunity for me as a speaker. There are many places where I can go as a speaker to motivate, share my story, give hope to people that, hey, if you have goals, personal goals, you can have more joy in your life, you can add more meaning to your life, happiness and growth through goals. So I want to pass on this message through my speeches as well in various forums. I'm traveling to India next month, July, coming next week actually. Um, I already have 2 speaking slots. So one with a healthcare tech company, about 70 managers. They promise that everybody will have a copy of my book. I'm not charging any money, but I want them to ensure they read the book before the session. So they may browse a few chapters, and the discussion is all about how can they set goals to improve as leaders. There are 2 such speaking slots in India. So to sum up again, making the book successful through marketing campaigns and ad campaigns, creating a course which is sustainable long-term course for people to go beyond their limits. Not only theory, but apply that as a community, come together and learn as a community. And the third one is speaking engagements to spread the message to various organizations. Those are
This
my
is
top 3 priorities.
this is awesome. You make my job easier because like I try to summarize what my guests like answer my questions, but you proactively greatly summarize better than I do. So thank you for making my life easier.
Well,
So
I teach a course called communication engineering for effective communication. If I don't lead by examples, how do I tell others to change
absolutely,
themselves?
absolutely, yeah. These are the lessons that I would love to learn more from you. So let's go one by one. Making the book successful. I really like the idea of like writing the book is challenging, especially like this non-fiction book, and there are a lot of like success strategy books in the market. There are huge demand for it, but it is challenging. But making it successful is even more challenging. So tell me more about like you talked about a few ideas, but
Mhm.
what are the how long do you think you need to spend or allocate for making the book successful? Three
Yeah.
months, 1 year? Tell me more. What are your actions for moving forward?
Yeah. I strongly believe that success leaves clues, which means there are people who have done what I want to do. I would love to model them. That is what I believe in the last 21 years. Right now, I am modeling an author called Scott Allen. Scott Allen is an American, but living in Japan for a long time. He's a business communications trainer. Scott has written 45 books so far. So he's a master in writing books and promoting books. I am working with him as a client in the last 8 months until this year, and we still have the engagement going on. So I'm simply modeling whatever Scott has been doing to market the book. I'll give a couple of ideas that we're working together. One is Amazon ads. There are wonderful ways to set Amazon ads so that when people search for a specific book, my book shows up as an ad saying, okay, you could also like this book. We are setting up Facebook ads based on the people's background, saying, for example, software engineers, non-native English speakers, software engineers passionate about personal growth, data engineers interested in this. So we can set up these segments. You know what the segments are. So it's a matter of creating those targeted ads for people to say, hey, you can do something different and do that. Okay, that's one. I am fairly active on LinkedIn. I have a good number of followers. That's another way where I actually keep posting great quality content, a lot of research. My content is usually less than 2 minutes. Anybody can read my content in 2 minutes because I don't think people need more information. People need transformation, which is applying ideas to their daily lives. Information is not required. ChatGPT can give you everything you want. Everybody knows how to be healthy, fit, and how to be happy. Everybody knows, but people are not doing it. It is never the information. That age is gone. 30 years ago, we were deprived of information. Today, we have indigestion of information. What is missing is the application of information. So, right now, ads, Facebook ad, Amazon ad, and LinkedIn, those three are my primary places. Fourth one I identified these days is really interesting. There are so many podcasts I'm getting invitations to. Many of those podcasts have more than 10,000 listeners. I'm going to one of the podcasts next month in August. They have a follower count of 100,000 people. And they send emails to these 100,000 people. They have a newsletter, and the podcast recording link goes to 100,000 people. And it's a free podcast. I'm not paying anything. But they are inviting me because of my software engineering background, Oracle and Meta, and publishing a book. So I'm leveraging my own career capital of software engineering and going to people who have good number of followers, asking, hey, I have got great quality content for you, an inspiring story for you and your audience. Would you be interested to have me as a guest? So those are my strategies to market the book and make it more popular this year.
Wish you a lot of success in your journey that along the way. Let me know how me, our team, and like our audience can even like help making like the book even more successful. With you mentioned some communities, and then the second goal that you have like the live course. We'll talk more about in our following episodes. But one thing that I want to highlight here is we also have a community of great engineers in tech from different countries, and we started it last year. It is called Dataverse, so we might invite you if you come back from your travel next month. We will be more than happy to have you in one of our stations and the going through these basically conversations within a group format. They will have a lot of questions about the software engineering experience, interviews, the career uplifting, all these things. So one final thing for this chapter of this episode is you mentioned about the public speaking, public speeches. 2 slots in India, right? What are the dates for those ones, and if you have other plans when you come back in US for some of those speeches?
Right now, I only have 2 slots. Both are in India. When I say public slot, they are not podcast recording. They are
Yeah,
in-person public talks.
yeah.
So one of them is on 17th July, which is in the afternoon in India, in Bengaluru city. This is where I'm meeting about 75 managers all the way up to vice presidents in a healthcare tech company in India, talking about the book and how they can set goals to improve. That's a 60-minute session followed by Q&A and book signing event. The other one was with a financial institution. It's a bank. I don't have the date yet for this because I clearly said that unless you promote the book, because without the book, it will just a theory to share. If they read a few chapters of the book, they will enjoy the session more. We're still discussing the logistics on the date. So the second one is not confirmed yet. The first one is 17th July.
Awesome. In terms of the platform for your second goal, which was the live course based on the book, 8-week program, what is the platform for that one? Is there any website?
Absolutely. There is a website called maven.com,
Okay.
Maven, maven.com. I already have 3 live courses there, 3 cohort courses. One is on communication engineering, which is tailoring your communication based on the audience. Second is called storytelling in the tech world, how to tell stories in your job interviews, resume, your performance appraisals, and presentations. Application of stories in technology world. The third course is called Becoming a Slidesmith, where you're creating intentional presentations for your leadership and other audiences, like business audience. I've got 3 courses. The fourth course is Beyond Your Limits, which is a longer course, 8-week course. All the other courses are about 3 to 4 weeks.
Maven.com.
So you go to maven.com, search my name, you will get all 4 courses at this point.
That's great. I think, if I remember correctly, in 2019, I used this website for, I think, some courses on data engineering, if I remember correctly. If that's the same platform, I have to double check it. But yeah, it reminds me of a great course at that time, beginning of my data engineering career. Do you have any plan for audio books based on your basically this current book?
I like the question. The book has 4 formats today. We have the ebook, which is the Kindle version, is launching on 4th July next week, next Thursday. Then we have paperback already available. Third is hardcover. Fourth one is audiobook. You can find the audiobook on Spotify if you are a premium member. If you're not a premium member, you can purchase on Spotify. It will be on audible.com in the next 3 weeks because they need a longer processing time. Otherwise, it's already available on Spotify.
That's great. We talked this basically the short version of the audiobook before I recommended Blinkist. There's a new application. I'm using it recently, not in the past 3 years, I would say. I think that's also a good idea to consider for future because more and more people are going towards what's the gist of this book? If I can consume the gist of this book in 20 minutes, let me do it every quarter. Let me go back to the 20 minutes that is basically the great summary of the book.
Yeah.
So one thing that I like about Blinkist is like some of the books that I love, I reviewed that book in 20 minutes every quarter or every year. So that's also something to consider in the future.
Yep, absolutely. So 2 points there, just to round up the answer. See, there are websites who do it and they ask money to summarize your book. I don't think it is free. That's one. The second thing is that this book is unique because if you read those 52 goals, each goal is unique. Like one goal is I have not watched television for 23 years. I don't have a television at home. Now, somebody who reads that chapter will understand what made me do this. How did my family support? How did my wife support? What's the benefit of all this? I don't think this can be summarized in a 20-minute version because they have to pick the best possible out of those 52 goals. And each goal is unique. One goal talks about nutrition, one goal talks about losing weight, the other goal talks about running a marathon in under 4 hours. So now the person who is summarizing it, they will not be able to identify out of the 52 goals, what do I pick? Because the book is written to inspire people to think about their intrinsic goals that bring growth, happiness, and meaning to their lives.
That was interesting and awesome answer. Yeah. So basically, I would love to talk more about like. So this is interesting for me. This question, like we can talk about it next time. Is like for Pramoda or Pramoda's like the students or basically mentees or the cohorts that taking Pramoda's courses, can they rank out of 52 goals that are the most demanding for younger generation in 2024? So this is something to think about. I will think about it. I will go through 52 goals again, and then
I can say a couple of goals already. One is not watching television is not easy. The
it's very
second one is
hard.
not using the phone for 13 to 14 hours a day is not easy.
So can like tell me this? Can you set this goal for not using any social media for 10 years? I can't imagine like we can set that type of goal.
Yeah. I mean, see, in my case, I'm strategic. I use LinkedIn, but I use it only when I want it.
Yeah.
I don't want LinkedIn to use me. I want to use LinkedIn.
How about other social medias? LinkedIn is for like your career. So you're building your audience, you're promoting your work, you're consuming great information. How about other social media? Is it possible to like limit ourselves, not using it for 1 year? I think 1 year is doable, but I don't know.
Yeah, I have a different perspective. See, if it is useful, you can still do it. Maybe 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. Use strategic block and say, in the next 20 minutes, I will browse my family and friends and enjoy the experience. That's totally fine.
That's the challenging part.
Yeah,
Limiting to 10 minutes daily, it's a challenging part.
Yeah. Imagine, would you eat dessert for the whole lunch or dinner? You wouldn't, right? So the same analogy, if you eat dessert a lot and no other food, no protein, no good food, no vegetable, it affects you. So the recommendation is, can you have goals for yourself? Goals that are really demanding goals, like running a marathon, running a half marathon, losing weight, reading books. When you add goals to your life, you don't have time for distractions. Today, since we don't have goals, we are drawn to distractions. You see the point?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So these are the day-to-day challenges that I feel myself, and I know like most people feel the same. Like if these were not challenging, like it's basically like the interesting part of these goal setting is like the challenging part. Like it's hard to like uninstall Instagram or whatever social media, TikTok or something like that. So this was a great conversation. This was a great chat, but we also have like 9 more slots in future. So basically what I love to do is like having a continuous episodes, like we might feel it 3 of them this year, but these upcoming episodes we will talk more about the the courses, your previous courses, and also your upcoming course based on this book, and we will talk more about the different strategies and techniques in the book. So yeah, thank you so much for the time. It was really enjoyable. Any final thoughts or words before we finish this episode?
My message to the audience is if you don't find goals for yourself, you will end up achieving other people's goals. So the goals can be set by your organization, your manager, or somebody else. You will continuously chase those goals. They are good. I'm not denying it. But you need to also identify what nourishes your soul. The goals that nourish your soul, you have to identify those, chase those goals. That's the passage to growth, happiness, and meaning in life. That is my message to your audience.
Awesome, great. Three things. One is I will put all the links for audiobook, ebook, and the hard copy purchase of the book in the description. The second thing is I would love to publish this episode first and then record the second episode. We are going to also have the live, if time allows, in the future, maybe end of summer, with the live audience. They can ask questions in a group podcast format towards the end of the summer. And lastly, one thing that was like the sentence that I loved is like, nowadays, or you mentioned last 30 days, we are departed from the information. It's basically the game of the transformation. Now how we can put different strategies and action day to day, boring things, but they will pay off in long term. So that was a great lesson from this episode for me. And then cheers for the book success and your public speak. And then see you in next episodes.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed
Have a
being
great
here.
Yeah, thank you so much, and have a great rest of the day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.